And how do we partner with industry who's actually building that infrastructure and talk to them about what is required both nationally and internationally as we share core borders with Canada and Mexico and key systems with many of our allies. And that infrastructure is the global economy. It is the backbone of international communications in the global economy. And what does the world need it to have in order to make it less easy for the 16-year-old hacker, the organized crime unit, or even a low-level distributed denial of service attack that we experienced on the 4th of July. I talked to Peter about this earlier, and that 4th of July attack was really not very sophisticated at all. But just to give you a sense of it, it was 15 years of traffic in a matter of 15 minutes, and 200,000 different computers that were mobilized that were launching more than 1 million attacks a second. And so if you just think of that, and it's only coming from 5 places, it drew down a lot of bandwidth. And thank God for Akamai, who helped redirect a lot of the bandwidth in order to keep the Department of Transportation, New York Stock Exchange, and others up and running. So what keeps me up at night still going forward? I'm not tracking time, Peter, so you're going to have to give me the time penalty box. On September 2nd, this year was the 40th anniversary of the Internet. And the inconvenient truth about the Internet at 40 is that the threat is outpacing those expenses, and at the volume and velocity never imagined. The underground economy last year was more than $1 trillion, and that's just of what we're accounting for, and I think that's only a percentage. The data breaches that we're seeing in corporate America are at an epidemic level, and there's not one sector that's without compromise, and it's one of the biggest secrets that nobody's talking about publicly. And if you were to have a infrastructure outage, which God help us if we ever have it, you could see an infrastructure outage at an energy grid that would be the equivalent of 50 hurricanes. And so what are we going to do in that digital disaster, and how are we all going to come together as a country going forward? And so I kind of think about the way forward is that we need to think about ourselves first. What are we doing personally? Who's watching the credit card? What are you doing to ensure that your computer's not infected and not launching an attack against your own bank or your government, or, God help us, another government? How do we think about taking care of each other going forward? And I had the privilege of opening an office in my career in Omaha, Nebraska. Anybody from the Midwest? Very few people. Wow. Okay, well, farming cattle in a bad year or a bad drought or a bad flood on the Missouri, or a bad tornado, which happen all the time. People take it's a sense of community, and that we really need to take care of each other and share the vulnerabilities across industry to really restore the security of the industry as a whole. Talk about what's happening at a broad scale, and what are we going to collectively do about it. It's not just the government's problem, it's the industry's problem, and it's a global problem. And how are we all going to pool our resources? And then how do we take care of our enterprises, our country, and ultimately our way of life? What's happening and what Keith talked about really is quite unacceptable. And so nights like tonight is a way to really start to begin the dialogue, and where you can all take it home to your dinner tables and talk about it with your children. And with that, thank you very much.